The Black Book of Communism. All socialists will have heard claims about the supposed death tolls of socialist regimes, most commonly pushed by the now infamous Black Book of Communism. A widely debunked study which claims that a shocking and terrifying 100 million people were killed in evil totalitarian communist regimes. Yet this 100 million figure is a myth. The number was massively inflated by the authors in an effort to reach the 100 million figure instead of striving for historical accuracy. They chose to count drops in birth rates, deaths of Nazi soldiers, deaths of Russian fascists, as all deaths of communism. The book is so discredited that even two of its own authors have since distanced themselves from it. And if you would like to have more detail on this, be sure to check out the short video on the Leaflet's YouTube channel on the subject. But today we are not here to debunk that text. Instead, we shall be confidently stating that even if those deaths from communism were completely 100% accurate, which they are not, then the deaths caused by capitalism still far exceed even the wildest figures for communism thrown at us by the Black Book. It is difficult to know where to start, but we can perhaps begin with needless starvation, a common accusation thrown at communism. According to the United Nations, 9 million people die every year due to hunger and hunger-related diseases. This is in spite of the fact that as a planet we easily make enough food for all the people of Earth, with the Institute for Food and Development Policy calculating that we currently produce enough food to feed 1.5 times the world's population. However, due to overconsumption, market inefficiencies, and lack of incentives to better distribute food, over 800 million people are affected by hunger, many of whom die. These are preventable deaths that a better, planned socialist system could avoid by tailoring society to meet the needs of its citizens. Next, there are vaccines and medication. According to the World Health Organization, 1.5 million people die from vaccine-preventable diseases that they couldn't afford to get vaccinated for. Again, the markets don't incentivize companies to help vaccinate people, and instead incentivize profit and make people pay extortionate sums of money for basic and important medication, so millions who cannot afford them have to go without. This is also something that we have seen during the COVID-19 crisis, where poorer countries cannot get their hands on vaccines as soon as the resource-rich states such as the United States or Britain. Another problem is the lack of access to clean water, which causes diseases that kill over 1.6 million every year. According to the World Health Organization, 785 million people lack even a basic drinking water service, including 144 million people who are dependent on surface water. Globally, at least 2 billion people use a drinking water source contaminated with feces. We have invented plenty of ways to purify water, from simply boiling it to adding iodine, but because of capitalism's prioritization of profit over human interests, those resources don't go to those who can't pay, usually those who need them the most, and so people die. Poor working conditions can also be directly linked to capitalist exploitation. With the market incentivizing pushing down costs in order to increase profit, terrible working conditions in capitalism are made inevitable. This can be starkly highlighted by the International Labour Organization, which states that almost 350 million workplace accidents and almost half that many workplace-related diseases occur annually. The ILO also estimates that 2.3 million die from this every year. Capitalism has also been found to be the leading cause, directly or indirectly, of what are known as deaths of despair. These include deaths from suicide, drugs, and alcohol caused by things such as a lack of employment, poor standard of living, and so on. Added up, that's about 4 million deaths per World Health Organization estimates. And again, it is not hard to see how in a planned social society, unemployment would fall massively, with decent wages and dignity for all, as society would not be tailored for the cutting of costs and maximization of profit, but instead for the common good and purpose of society as a whole. For those counting, this now amounts to almost 20 million preventable deaths a year under capitalism. In other words, a whole Black Book of Communism every half-decade. And this does not even begin to touch upon factors such as wars, conflicts, massacres, and genocides caused by the actions of or perpetuated by capitalist countries. These have all led to mass suffering and countless deaths, something which will likely be discussed in more detail in a future video. It also does not factor in the future suffering to be caused by the capitalist climate crisis, another future topic for another day. There is, therefore, no contest. Our capitalist system kills and will continue to kill at a faster and more intense rate than communism ever has or ever will, even by the most hysterical and anti-communist standards. To gain a deeper understanding of how the capitalist system murders, the MLC recommends The Conditions of the Working Class in England by Friedrich Engels. It will be linked in the description. This week on Monday the 12th at 9 PM BST, in our Discord server, we will be hosting a reading of sections of the chapter entitled Results from Conditions of the Working Class, in order to further our education on the subject. You can join our server using the invite link in the description.
The Marxist Literature Collective is an organization which aims to educate as wide of an audience as possible on socialism, anti-imperialism, and progressive issues, using a Marxist framework. We do this through a combination of online content, the links for which can be found in the description below, and through action in our local communities. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for similar content. You can also find us on Patreon, where we offer exclusive content for patrons who help support the MLC.